Hello, my name is Ben,
And my name is Josh.
and welcome back to FPL Graduates. And game week one over just like that. Felt like a very short weekend, it had to be said, with no Monday night games. So we're all done and dusted by the Sunday afternoon/evening. And what a game week!
Yeah, I was buzzing. I had a great weekend. Loads of goals this week as well. Like way more than we expected. Loads of people, like literally everyone you owned, basically scored this week. So it's been a fantastic week. It does go downhill from here, though, lads.
Yeah, I'm unfortunately probably not going to see a game week like that until maybe a double game week, or even if the potential of a triple game week, because that's now possible. But we'll get straight into it. We'll go into my team. And to be fair, it's an average week, if I'm being completely honest with you. Here it is right now, 97 points, which I consider as an average this week. I think around about the 100-point mark gets you like 500k in the world, which is pretty mental for one game week. And we start off in goal. Melier, I wasn't expecting too many points. I was expecting probably like 3 points for him to only get one. Slightly disappointing, but you know what? We move. The double up on the Liverpool defence worked a treat this week. Yes, they got away with a couple of things here and there, and a couple of lucky touches went their way, but they got the clean sheet in the end, and not many teams got clean sheets this week. As we saw with Aston Villa, Matt Target, he's one definitely that. Do I transfer him out? Do I not? That's the big question, because he came off after 45 minutes, and his replacement, Ashley Young, in the second half, did a much better job than him. So definitely one on the watch list for me. Luke Shaw with the 1-pointer. I mean, with the amount of goals Bruno Fernandes scored, as we'll see later on, I don't think it's too much of a concern that he got 1 point. Didn't look too bad. Attacking threat wasn't quite there, but I'm sure that'll come with weeks. The captain choice, I mean, realistically, whoever you picked, you're getting loads of points. I'm pretty sure it was the most Salah's ever been captained and owned by anyone, owned by so many people and captained by millions. And Fernandes as well. Brilliant performance. Just goes to show you got to stick to your guns and stick with what you know best. In the midfield with Benrahma, wonderful pick. I mean, I've been banging on about him for a while now, and he's delivered the goods as I said he would, and hopefully he can continue that. Price is going to go 0.2 up straight off the bat. I can guarantee that happening. Mahrez, disappointing with the two-pointer. I thought he should have scored in that game against Spurs. The chance he had was a big one, and it was an absolute sitter. Should have buried it, but it gives me hope going into that Norwich game that he can get a return if he starts. Obviously not as nailed now, but you know we wanted him for game week 2 anyway, so that's my thought process behind it. And then up front, Antonio, 13 points, what a hero. Roller coaster of emotions there with his 90 minutes. And Tony, who I'm very happy to own. I know he didn't have a shot, but he tore Arsenal apart on his own without even having to have a shot. So who knows what he can do when he does have a shot on target, because he's going to be ruthless. So overall, not too bad start. I got good decision for me to bench Rafinha. Only got the 1 point. And I'm on a sort of steady start compared to a lot of people, but you know that's what you got to do in FPL. You've got to maintain steadiness and high averages. So we move with that. Josh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think you've had, like, if you said to yourself before the game week, you'd definitely take what you've got there. Your team looks good. You got all the right players. A lot of players look quite decent who didn't return. Like, I think Luke Shaw's 1-pointer is really like disappointing on the face of it, but if you watch the game, the goal that United conceded is unstoppable. So that's a bit of nothing he could have done about that. Matt Target is an issue, though. I think is the only thing that I'd pick up on in your team. He got taken off because he's getting run ragged by Ismail Assar that whole first half. So he's the only player that I would change, I think.
Yeah, I mean, start of the season, I think what I've said before on TikTok is game week 1, it doesn't give a good indication for the season. So we could see a completely different game week 2, but we'll swiftly move on to your team. Josh, talk us through your team.
Yeah, it weren't bad, was it? So 116 points. It ranks me 11,000 in the world, which is insane. Like, honestly, I'll getting a nosebleed out. It's that good. So I had Melier too. The 1 point I wasn't expecting much, like Ben said. 1 point I'll take it considering they conceded 5. Like I wasn't obviously expecting United to score that many. I already mentioned Shaw is disappointing on the face value, but the goal they scored, and then he did get a stupid yellow, but that's just sometimes happens. Trent and Smithcast, 6-pointers. You love to see it. They were lucky to keep them, especially towards the end of that game. I think Norwich had really high expected goals, actually, like almost the same as Liverpool, but didn't manage to score. Luke Ayling came off the bench for Joel Veltman down here, as you see. Unreal. Great finish. He didn't get a goal or assist for the whole of last season. He gets one on game week 1 this season, is what you love to see. Midfield, Sonny Boy getting the goal against Man City. I backed him for quite a while in pre-season. He had a great pre-season. I picked him over Mahrez and he provided the goods. 2 bonus points in the goal. We love to see it. As Ben mentioned, Benrahma, absolute just quality player. Could have got a lot more returns than that as well. They looked really dangerous, West Ham on the counter. Bruno Fernandes, 20 points, hat-trick hero, no penalties. All the haters can get out. Love to see it. Mo Salah captain, great performance from him. I thought he was too unselfish for once. Like he at the later stage of the game, he could have just scored, tried to pass it to Mane. Should have been more points, Salah, mate. Disappointed. Antonio, the 13. Again, great. Unlucky with the penalty miss. I think he just rushed it, to be honest. He should have done better. Whether he's on the next penalty will remain to be seen. Danny Ings as well, that 97th minute penalty, that was so clutch. They just didn't look good. Again, he didn't have a shot before that penalty, similar to Tony, but he managed to steal one at death. And then nothing really to shout about on the bench. As I mentioned, Veltman is out due to COVID-related reasons, so hopefully he should be back this weekend and into that Brighton team. But yeah, absolutely insane score. What are you saying, Ben?
Absolutely crazy. Not too much to be said about that. And the jam on toast with the Ayling coming off the bench is just something that I fondly remember from Leeds assets coming off the bench last season. So we love to see it. And yeah, you put yourself on a springboard. I mean, it's going to be, as a lot of people on Twitter said, the lower you rank, the more likely you are to get a green arrow next week. So I'm looking forward to that green arrow, and hopefully that you get some sort of green arrow. It'd be crazy if you did, but mate, what a start.
Like I said at the start of the stream, it's literally down from here. So not quite ideal, but we'll move with that. It's a great start, as mentioned. So yeah, not too bad. We'll move on to some Game Week 1 stats, though. I wanted to just bring this up. Now we're partnered with Fantasy Football Hub. If you haven't checked them out, the link is in the description. It should be on the first link on our link tree. We're looking at non-penalty expected goals, because this is where you're going to see the players that obviously could score the most, but without penalties, obviously. So Danny Ings is someone who will rank terribly in this, as he didn't have a shot. But if you looked at his just expected goals, he'd be quite high, because obviously it's a penalty. I think it's like 0.7 and above for penalties. So obviously Bruno Fernandes leads the way with 1.06, which is mental, because he scored a hat-trick. You'd expect that to be a lot higher. Jota's up there. He obviously got the goal. Tarkowski's up there, which is interesting to see. He obviously scored at the weekend. And there's a few others. Ben, is there anyone that like sort of stands out to you in that list that you think like? I'm trying to
see it on my screen. Hang on, I'm just gonna whip it up on my phone, because I'll actually be able to see it a bit more there. But for me, with stats like this and looking at like the expected goals, you'll tend to see that how do I put it? That after a few more game weeks, the players who are actually performing week in, week out will start to rise to the top. And I think we'll see the likes of Fernandes, Jota, Antonio, DCL, Mope, Wilson. They will start rising a bit more, and there'll be obviously Tarkowski up there. You're not going to want to probably bring him in. I mean, you could if you want to, if you're really an XG sort of guy, but you'll see a few of the more expected ones. And if there are strikers in that list, then I think you need to keep an eye on them, because they're the ones that are creating the chances, and sooner or later they're going to score. So you're looking at Jota, you're looking at Antonio, as I said, and DCL as ones potentially that you should be getting in, because a good non-penalty XGs probably looking at 0.5 to 0.6 over a longer spell. But, you know, for now, having the stats that we got here for one game week, we can see that, you know, they could be on track to have another good game week and another good game week after that. It's just expecting who's going to play well. Obviously, you've got to take into account, the difficulty rating of each fixture, that sort of thing. But, there's some good strikers in there who posted some really good non-penalty XG.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anyone that you'd like, just from an eye test, if you've caught them, is there anyone that you're looking at bringing in, like maybe as a sort of a heads up? Maybe not this week, but obviously next week you'll definitely have to make a transfer. Is there anyone you're looking at so far?
To be honest, because a lot of my assets returned, it was kind of a case of, I'm not really sure. But one player who I've looked at and I'm thinking, I'm scratching my head, how am I going to get him in? It's Heung-min Son of Tottenham. I think based on what we saw against City, he could become that talismanic figure and just be on absolutely everything. And it's probably a good idea that you've already got him in, because it saves the headache now of trying to work out who you want to downgrade. Because for me, I'm going to have to transfer out Mahrez in the midfield and then downgrade one of Luke Shaw to a 4.5, Benrahma to a 5, or Tony, down to a 5.5, or Antonio. So it's players that you don't want to really downgrade. But if Son starts picking up form, and we know what Son's like, he's the sort of player to score in spades. He will score loads in about 4 or 5 game weeks, and then we'll go on a bit of a run without one. So we could be seeing Son's yearly get a load of goals and then do nothing. So you got to hop on that.
Yeah, 100%. I didn't even pick him really for the City fixture, obviously. It's not something that I looked at and targeted, even though his goal record against City is really good. Their next 3 fantastic fixtures, I think it's Wolves, Crystal Palace and Burnley. Don't count me on that. 2 of them are definitely right, but don't count me on all 3. So really next 3 good 3 games. But with Mahrez, as a non-owner of any City assets, I think he's still a fantastic option going into game week 2, don't you?
Absolutely. I wouldn't have been too concerned by it, because obviously he came off after 70 minutes or so, and I still think he is like that crucial player in Pep Guardiola's side. Didn't really perform on the day, but he's had a full preseason. I think that's crucial at this point. De Bruyne, he came on. Did he do much? You can argue not, because the preseason is very, very crucial. And Norwich, they looked decent against Liverpool. I thought they got a bit unlucky with the scoreline, but it's Norwich City against Manchester City. I mean, last season we saw Norwich do quite well against them. I don't think Pep's going to quite underestimate them again.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting game. For me, I can't see myself bringing in a City asset, not because I don't want to. It's just because I can't really afford to. I'd probably have to take a hit somewhere, and I don't really fancy bringing in the defenders when you don't really know who's nailed. Other than Diaz, who's 6 million, it's a bit too pricey. So big risk. I'm not going to enjoy watching that Man City Norwich game this weekend. That's for sure.
Yeah, it kind of moves us on nicely to captain picks in game week 2. Now, you could almost talk about, if you're risky and you're wanting to risk it early on, a City player for that captaincy pick. Norwich at home is obviously probably the nicest fixture of the week for any team to have. But would that be something that you should be willing to risk, considering the form of certain 2 other players that are banging in points at the moment?
Yes, it's obviously something to consider. I think if Man City won that game, it'd be a lot easier to consider. They always tend to go on a bit of a slow start. We saw it last season. They dropped down to about 11th or 14th or something like that. So it does seem to affect them the start of the season, especially with this Euro and Copa America hangover. Pretty much their whole squad coming back from some form of international tournament. So it's not ideal for them. For me, though, even if I had Mahrez or any City asset, I would still stick with Bruno and Salah. Either one of them. I haven't decided personally which one I'm going for, but I think you can't really go wrong this week. I see both of them returning like some form of points. It's just a question who's going to get more. It was Bruno last week. Who's it going to be this week then?
Yeah, I mean, you can make some really good arguments for both of them. For Salah, you're looking at a home game at Anfield against Burnley. Mo Salah always pops off on the first home game of the season. Exactly. And then in terms of Fernandez's case, United are a very much a team that play very well away from home, as well as the fact Southampton conceded the highest XG out of any single Premier League team in game week 1. So it just shows that there's defensive frailties in that Southampton team with 2 brand new fullbacks in there, lost their main defender in Vestergaard. Their defense is not going to be great for a good few weeks. It's going to take a while for them to gel in. So that's the argument that you can make for Bruno Fernandes. So, I mean, either way, it's a very much a 50-50 pick. And I think whatever decision you make, hopefully it should result in points.
Yeah, I think for me this year, I took a lot of risks last season with captaincy, a lot of differential picks. I remember captaining Gabriel Jesus for 1 week. Like, what the hell was I thinking? This season, I'm going to keep it really like strict, probably to 3 players, and those 3 will be Mo Salah, Bruno, or Heung-min Son. I know next week Spurs have a very tasty fixture, I think, against Watford. So yeah, those 3 will be my captains this week. I am currently on Bruno. Who are you currently on, Ben?
Currently on Salah right now, so it's interesting. It's interesting.
Exactly. So either way, I don't think you can go wrong this week. I think both will return, but again, you want to try and maximize the points. So we'll have to wait and see. But come Friday's live stream, who are you going to be captaining?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it? And yeah, I'm hoping that it's going to be Salah at this point to pop off with some goals. But I wouldn't mind Bruno either. So we'll see about that. But it'll be interesting to see what everyone else picks, because obviously Salah was by far the most captained in game week 1. We could see it a lot more even this week, and expected ownership for each player will be over 100%. You can guarantee that.
Yeah, super interesting, because if they are over 100% expected ownership, they will negatively affect your rank if you don't captain them. So it's crazy to think on game week 2 that like that can happen, because I don't think that's ever happened before, like as far as I can remember.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stages in last season where, you know, at points, Salah, Fernandes, and Kane were all over 100% expected ownership, and one of them was going to hinder your rank massively, and the other 2, you know, you had to captain one of them. So we'll see about that. But time for a few questions before we wrap up the stream. Sam is asking Sancho to start this week. I'll leave this one to Josh, as you know, more of the United expert.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Cavani's back in training on Tuesday. We saw Martial get minutes off the bench last week. Greenwood obviously started, got a goal. So United have a plethora of attacking options. I do see him starting, though, against Southampton. I think you're not going to spend 70-odd million and keep benching him week after week. So I think he'll be definitely starting this week. It'll be interesting to see if Pogba maybe goes back a bit. He's the most transferred in player so far this week. I don't really know why. He is not going to get that sort of level of return. And I think one massive negative for Pogba is that he will not provide too much goal threat, like compared to Bruno Fernandes or Greenwood at the same price, 7.5 million. Greenwood's going to provide you a lot more goals and maybe even a few assists. But we know Pogba can pop off in those certain situations. What are your thoughts, Ben, on that sort of Pogba-Greenwood debate?
It's a difficult one because I feel like Pogba will get more minutes, but Greenwood's the more, you know, got the higher ceiling. I think, to be honest, you could get away with not having either of them at the moment. Yeah. I'm sure, depending on who gets those minutes, it could very much change. If Greenwood starts picking up minutes left, right, and centre, and Pogba's not playing as much, or Sancho's not playing as much, but it's just a rotation risk for me, and I think that's why a lot of people have sort of swayed towards Bruno. Here's a question: who shall I get over Target this week? Now, for me, I wouldn't transfer him out yet, just because the 3 good fixtures at the start of the season. For me personally, I'm probably going to bench Target this week because I think Newcastle's attack did look very, very good against a solid, like, defensively West Ham team last season, and you know, we'll see what happens with that. But for me, game week 3, he's got to be in there as well, and a sell in game week 4 potentially. That's my thoughts on it. Game week 3 is a sticky one for a lot of defences in FPL. City play Arsenal and Liverpool play Chelsea, so a lot of defences are going to be a problem. So I'd keep him in just for that, because the replacements are going to have a tough game in game week 3. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I think if you think longer term, it's obviously a keep for now. Obviously, if he doesn't play this weekend, then it becomes a different issue. Like, because if Ashley Young, say, starts at left back, for example, you're going to have to transfer him out after that. But yeah, I'm just not a massive fan of that Villa defence. We saw towards the end of last season, they were sort of being kept in it by Emi Martinez in terms of clean sheets and stuff. And I think it's proven to be the case. A lot, basically, other than I'd say Conser, I think all the other three are kind of liabilities, especially against someone who's faster than them. We saw that with Target; he was just the one to be picked out with Saar. So, yeah, I personally steer clear. But if you've got them now, I wouldn't get rid of them just yet.
Yeah, definitely agree. Kian's asking, is a triple captain a good thing to do in game week 2? Is it, Josh?
I mean, personally, I'm saving it for a double game week. You're going to have a lot better odds in your favour if you've got a triple captain in a double game week. It's double the chance, maybe even double the points. Obviously, we see a lot the past 2 seasons. Game week 1, we've had a super high scores in terms of captaincy. So maybe back then, yes, but for me, I would not be using my triple captain in game week 2. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see anywhere near as many high returns as we did in game week 1. It's not often that the top 2 highest owned players get 3 returns each in a game, so I'd save it for double game week. Simple as that, and I would save the bench boost and the other chips like that for the double game weeks, because they become crucial at that point into getting a good rank. Here's a question from Glenn, who asks, should we bring Pogba in, or is it a case of they don't play Leeds every week?
Yeah, it's not a case of they don't play Leeds every week. I just don't think you can expect 4 assists from a player every week. I think it's only happened 7 other times in Premier League history, so it's definitely a one-off event. I'm not sure why everyone has brought him in. Everyone knows Pogba's quality, but he doesn't tend to be that FPL go-to, does he? Everyone tends to have the striker, like a Cavani, a Bruno is obviously way better than him. So, yeah, for me, I'd stay clear of basically all Man United attacking assets, bar Bruno Fernandes. There's just no guarantee on minutes right now. Until we see who begins to pick up those minutes, then we'll be able to transfer our thoughts to those guys.
Yeah, a good point here made by FPL Rubber Ducky is keep your free transfer. Nobody should be using a free transfer until game week 2, and I totally agree with that. I think you just got to stick with your guns. Game week 2 is going to be different to game week 1, and then you can make your decisions based on what you've seen over more data, essentially. And here's a good one from Ant. What was your favourite goal of the week from an FPL perspective? I think both of us might be the same,
Go on, I'll let you go first.
I'm going to go for that Antonio and Benrahma link up. Both of them getting in the return. I think it was Benrahma with the goal and Antonio with the assist. That was probably the best moment for me for the FPL.
Yeah, no doubt that was good. But seeing Son, the difference, because you and Liam on that stream both have Mahrez, it did question me. I did think about it. I'm like, City have a great game week 2 as well. But seeing him just score against City, I was just like, that is a result. Getting bonus as well. It was just topped off an already amazing week. So, yeah, that would be my one.
Yeah, fair play. I mean, imagine if Mahrez had scored that one before. Oh, would have been absolute scenes, wouldn't it? Yeah, we'll take 1 or 2 more questions and we'll wrap this up. Here's one. Should I bring in a City asset for Kai Havertz? That is a tough one.
It's a really, really good question. Obviously, Chelsea have a tough run until game week 7 now. They've got rid of their easier fixture, which Havertz didn't even play in, which is even more frustrating if you own him. He obviously played 120 minutes in the whatever cup it is, the Super Cup or whatever it is. So I would lean towards a yes, but it's going to have to be someone who'd play, and I'm just not sure who's going to be explosive enough and play at 8.5 million and below. Obviously, you can get Jack Grealish, but to be honest, he didn't really look at the races for City. He seems to be getting used to things. Obviously, Sterling started. You could have the likes of Ferran Torres, who was arguably their best attacker on the day, I thought. What are you thinking, Ben?
I'm thinking that it's a really tough one because I could see Chelsea doing well against, sort of the big teams, but I might not have had him for game week 1 anyway. I might have said, it's probably not worth having a Chelsea boy, even though they got a good first game week, because the risk of Tuchel, Tombola, and the fact that they've got a tough run. So I probably would. in your case, because the only exception I'd make to no free transfers is if your player's injured or didn't get played when you thought they would. But yeah, we'll take one more question or statement here from FPL Penguin, who's talking about Benrahma and Willock. Both good assets, or which one would you prefer out of the two?
It's actually interesting because obviously Willock didn't play Game Week 1 just because he didn't sign quick enough for Newcastle, but he will definitely be playing Game Week 2. I think Newcastle are quite interesting going forward. Like, we saw it at the back end of last season, the last maybe 7 games, that they scored goals against pretty much anyone. Callum Wilson is a bagsman up top, 7.5 million. I think he went under a lot of people's radars, got the goal. Admittedly, maybe Antonio outshone him in that game, but I see Wilson performing and basically scoring most weeks. So for me, between the two, I would lean towards Benrahma if Jay Lings doesn't sign. But if Lingard does sign, I think Willock is a great secondary option for sure.
Yeah, I think the fact that Willock scored in 7 Premier League games in a row at the end of the season just goes to show how well he was playing. And we'll see if he can pick up that form again. Obviously needs maybe a little bit of time to just get back into the rhythm of playing competitive football again. So we'll see about that. But I'm sure both assets are quality. I've got Benrahma myself and buzzing with it. And Joe Willock could be another one of those players that's just going under the radar of a lot of FPL managers just because he didn't play in Game Week 1.
Definitely.
So that kind of wraps it up. It was just a little quick one, little review of Game Week 1 and what a week it was for Josh mainly. Pretty decent for me, but Josh's got to take the plaudits for the picks that he put in there. The differentials paid out in the end, and that's the big difference between a lot of teams this week, was those differential picks.
Yeah, it was a fantastic week for both of us, though. Thanks, everyone, for joining and watching. We'll be live again on YouTube on Friday. It's actually going to be an FPL Friday kind of vibe again, which will be brilliant. We'll have a guest on, and we can't wait, can we, Ben?
Yeah, well, it's going to be a decent one. And yeah, as always, please like, comment, subscribe. Go follow us on all the socials. And yeah, I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
And we'll see you guys
later. Have a good game week, everyone.